In this week's edition of Tuesday Talk, we're here with our good friends, Larry Richert from KDK Radio and Post-Gazette Scene and Advice columnist Natalie Bencivenga. Welcome to both of you.
Good morning.
For this edition of Tuesday Talk, we really wanted to talk about how we can get out and help. I think a lot of people are feeling that urge. They want to do something. They need an outlet. Both of you are so involved in the community, so we thought this would be perfect for you guys to be here.
Natalie, please start.
So I came up with a list because I think in these times it's good to have an outlet. Community grief is one of those things that can feel really overwhelming for people in general. And so you want to, like you were saying, put that energy somewhere. And so there are so many nonprofits that I have the privilege of covering in the community. And a lot of them sort of fly under the radar, but they're doing really good work. So one of them I wanted to bring to attention if people wanted to get involved was a newer organization called Scent with Love. And this one, they're taking flowers from different events, like if you go to a wedding or a charity event, and they're redistributing them to spaces around our communities, to nursing homes, to senior centers, to places in need that, need that sort of uplifting moment. So I thought that would be a really fun one to sort of kick off with. And have you guys heard of Jeremiah's Place?
I have heard of that one.
Do you know that one?
I have.
Yeah, Jeremiah's Place is another really good one where basically it's a emergency daycare center. And people might think, oh, that's weird. Why would we need one of those? Well, maybe if you don't have a community around you or people that you can trust to leave your children with if there's an emergency or a job interview or something, this place can keep your children up to 3 days. And so there's just a lot going on in our communities, ways that you can give back that maybe you weren't aware of.
I know there are so many foundations and organizations. Larry, you are at so many functions throughout the year, and I know you're heavily involved in many of them too.
And I think it's really important in a situation. I think we're all overwhelmed, the grief and emotion, and we're all, as a community, going through the process, grieving for our friends, family, and the city and region. And it's easy and understandable that people would cocoon up and not want to go out. But I think what really is helpful is if you can extend yourself and try to think of who can I help directly. And maybe not directly in this case, but somebody can benefit from stepping out of your comfort zone and doing something for somebody else.
It was interesting, there's been such an outpouring of love, not only just from Pittsburgh itself, but from around the world. And that has really touched me in a way that I didn't really think about, because even on Twitter, on social media, you have people like, Michael Keaton, Tom Hanks, Stephen Colbert, Anderson Cooper was here, talking about the Pittsburgh community and the fabric of this community. And, you always say, oh, Pittsburgh proud, everybody's Pittsburgh proud, but I really am proud of Pittsburgh. I feel this connection to this city, I think, in a way that a lot of us do, where it's like one big neighborhood. And so when one of us is hurting, our community is hurting, I really feel like we all really do come together. I just hope we can continue this energy, in the next weeks and months leading beyond this.
We've talked about that because when the national media leaves, when things aren't covered as much, when people start to leave that community in Squirrel Hill, those families are still grieving, and they may be grieving for a very long time. I know the Jewish Community Council Center has been doing a great job of welcoming in those families and being there to support them. You mentioned Michael Keaton's tweets, and this is just one of them. He wrote, I've been walking around kind of numb for 2 days, asking myself what I can say to people. David Shribman said it for me in the New York Times editorial, and he shared this picture of the post there, of the article. Also tweeting, they all hurt, everyone. Speaking of mass shootings and different incidents, every time, everywhere, this one really hurts. So I think, like you mentioned, we're seeing it from across the world.
And that symbol you just saw is from a gentleman named Chris Eithen from Grove City. He and his wife, they produce T-shirts. Now, he said, you would know my work, the Gold Rush at a Penguins game, those are my T-shirts. And he felt he wanted to do something and contribute, and created that. So all of a sudden, that's become a real symbol of the region.
And it's been interesting too, talking about community, a lot of the spaces around Pittsburgh are giving away, free days. A lot of the museums,
Right.
Lily's Ice Cream, Square Cafe is saying to first responders, come in, have pancakes and coffee on us. I just love seeing how Pittsburgh, we're so good at this, comes together when one of its neighbors are hurting, and to be able to walk into spaces, community spaces like our museums or like a garden, and just be able to have a moment to pray or meditate or look at something beautiful that might inspire you to do something with your grief is really meaningful. And I think that's wonderful that these institutions are extending that hand.
Well, Tom Hanks also tweeted, and this was over the weekend. He shared a picture, and I live in Mount Washington, so I see this every day when I'm in my community. Love thy neighbor. And he said, again to me, this photo is the spirit of Pittsburgh with a broken heart today for those in Squirrel Hill, Hanks. And I believe the bottom line, which you can't see there, is no exception.
Right.
And I think that we do that. We do that here in Pittsburgh and in Western Pennsylvania. And I think that having somebody walk into a house of worship and do something like this is why it's unthinkable. And I think a lot of us are wondering, because we love each other so much, how something like this could happen.
As a dad, you have to answer a lot of questions, as a mom, and it always gets down to love is the answer. And however you get to that point in this region, and the kindness, you saw it with the Steelers organization, the Penguins, the Pirates, people iconically, and they put themselves in a place where it's not about us, but if we, the Muslims, the Christians, and the Jewish community around the world. So you do feel there's a love, and we are going to be stronger as a community because of that bonding.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys. We are in it together for sure. Thank you both for being here today, opening your hearts and talking. Thanks to KDKA's Radio, Larry Richert, and Post-Gazette's Natalie Bencivenga for being our guests for this week's edition of Tuesday Talk. Watch for next panel discussion next Tuesday when we talk politics and money for Election Day.